Hello everyone, welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of September 4th through the 10th of 2017. I'm Kiana Mayfield from LibraLunaCenter.com, and this week we are having a full moon in Pisces, 13 degrees, in exact conjunction to Neptune retrograde, which will be happening on the 5th, Tuesday, later in the day, later in the evening for those of us in the US, and for many in Europe or Asia or Australia or Africa, it will be September 6th, early in the morning for you. So we start off the week on Monday, on the 4th of September, with the sun in exact opposition to Neptune retrograde. And when the sun is in exact conjunction with a retrograde planet outside the orbit of the Earth, right? This means that this planet, in this case Neptune retrograde, is closest to our planet, Earth, right? So what this means is that we are getting a download from Neptune. We are getting a spiritual imprint of
just a second.
You're getting a spiritual imprint from a higher consciousness, right? Neptune representing the collective unconscious. And at the very beginning of this week, and even the days preceding it, there's been this sort of fog in the air, right? Especially as this is happening. Mercury has exactly stopped at 28 degrees Leo, preparing to go direct on Tuesday, the same day as the full moon. And the moon has been in Aquarius, conjuncting the south node and opposing this Mercury retrograde, and the Mars conjunction that just occurred over the weekend, right? So Mars is at the 29th degree of Leo, mind you, so it is very stimulated in a way where it wants to make its impact, right? It wants to make a mark. It wants to lead the way. It wants to win, right? But Mercury being stopped now and the sun opposing Neptune, this is a time to chill out, right? This is a time to receive messages. This is a time to allow the puzzle pieces to come together as Mercury prepares to station direct. This is us finally completing the puzzle, right? This is us finally receiving the answer we've been searching for since the middle of August, when Mercury went retrograde. And even before then, when Mercury was in shadow, preparing for its retrograde at the end of July. And so this has been, as this has happened through the eclipse season, this has been a very introspective time for us all, but as well as trying to get our reality straightened out, trying to see our reality in a different way. And with the Mars Mercury conjunction that just occurred over the weekend, this is an aspect that allowed that to happen, right? This is an aspect that allowed us to see from the perspective of our heart, because Mercury has returned to the solar eclipse position, 28 degrees Leo, right? So in a way, Mercury is figuring out the message that the solar eclipse on August 21st was trying to deliver to us, but was not necessarily made obvious in the way that we would usually expect to receive messages, right? So we saw the solar eclipse, and the solar eclipse itself was the imprint for an entirely new cycle of our lives. But how we see this new cycle and what it means to us, and how we understand it, is determined by Mercury, right? And so Mercury is giving us sort of a snapshot of what it means for us, of what the solar eclipse was trying to deliver to us, but we weren't necessarily perhaps all the way prepared for, because there still needed to be shifts in our perception of reality, right? We sort of needed to bend our own rules with Mercury in Virgo. But now with Mercury in Leo, this is able to see the bigger picture, to see what's really important, to see what lies beneath the surface, right? The lava beneath the surface layer, Earth, that was kind of obscuring our reality through Virgo, right? And as we do get to the bottom of this, with the Sun opposing Neptune, Neptune being closest to Earth now, imprinting us with this subconscious deluge of information, right? This light that we're all receiving now, in order to purify ourselves. It's like a huge pause day. So this is a weird Monday for all of us, because kind of feels like we're sleepwalking, right? It kind of feels like we're somewhat in a daze, but this is a time for us to go within, right? To not push our boundaries, being that we already know what it is our heart is trying to communicate to us now, right? But to see the bigger picture, to see it, and to prepare for the full moon, which happens the very next day, right? So as we get the info of what the solar eclipse message was, right, it's finally been delivered to us in a way, we step into Tuesday, September 5th, or September 6th for those of you on the other side of the world, from the US, right? We have the full moon in Pisces, conjuncting Neptune retrograde, in sextile to Pluto retrograde, as Mercury comes direct, 28 degrees Leo, the solar eclipse degree, and Mercury will be hanging out in this position until the 8th, so it's a 3-day stretch of time for Mercury to gain momentum again, as it has stopped, but he's moving forward now, right? And as this happens, Mars is moving into Virgo, which will be until October 23rd. It's how long Mars will be in Virgo. And for us, this is cleaning up our lives, right? Getting extremely diligent about what needs to be done. And on the same day, Venus is in exact quincunx to Neptune retrograde. Venus in Leo. So, big day, big day. This feels like the actual real start of the week, right? So instead of Monday, we're starting the real week off on Tuesday. And overall, this week is a very chill, somewhat more laid back week than most, even though it's a full moon week. It's sort of releasing. It's releasing us from the past, right? It's washing away all of the dirt and the old energy and the toxic sort of bubble we've been in since around the solar eclipse new moon in Pisces, which occurred on February, I believe the 26th of February, earlier this year. So these last 6 months have been about us redefining our spiritual reality, right? Redefining our spirituality, redefining how we see ourselves in the reality we choose to perceive, right? So these past 6 months have been about us detoxifying, right? Detoxifying from our own unconscious, somewhat victimization patterns. And especially now with the sun being in Virgo, this is about us healing and purifying what has been, right? Healing and purifying through compassion, through the divine mother archetype, right? As this full moon in Pisces is not only in Pisces, but it's conjuncting Pisces ruler Neptune, and it's retrograde. And Neptune will be in quincunx to its lower octave version, which is Venus. Venus being the lower octave of the archetype of love, let's just say, and Neptune being the higher octave. So this is about compassion. This is about understanding what you love, right? With Venus in Leo, what you love personally, right? And as well with Mercury in Leo, sort of delivering us to ourselves, delivering us to the new version of ourselves that was implemented during the solar eclipse, right? Now we're starting to seed it in our own minds, right? Where it was like an abstract sort of event that occurred. We felt something happen, but we didn't necessarily know what happened, right? Well, Mercury sorts that out for us because we're able to see it and perceive it in a way that is visible, in a way that is perceptible to our senses, right? That is able to be felt by our physical senses and understood logically, right? So now we understand what we love. We understand what we need. And as well, we understand what we need to fix, right? And we understand that this requires a certain degree of, with Venus and quincunx to Neptune, this requires a certain degree of adjustment in our emotional temperament, right? And how we demonstrate our love, right? Venus in Leo is the love of self, right? Is the love of the expression of self, is the love of the expression of the heart, and anything which it desires is sort of an extension of its own heart, right? But mixed with the quincunx to Neptune and Pisces being the unconditional loving mother, right? This is combining the need for self-love and self-expression with a higher picture. So this requires a certain degree of adjustment through compassion, through seeing each side of the story, right? Through seeing how everything comes together and letting that be an impetus for washing away what has been since, or the cycle we've been in since late February, earlier this year, and as well with all of 2016 with the nodal axis in Virgo-Pisces. This is somewhat releasing that cycle we've been in. Because even though we've been out of it for a while, right, as the nodal axis has been in Leo Aquarius for some time now, since May, mentally we've still been playing out what has been since the nodal axis was in Virgo-Pisces. So now there is a sort of mental release of our old self that lived in that state, right? That continued to play out the patterns and the stories and the lessons that we needed to learn through the Virgo-Pisces story, right? And again, this all comes down to compassion and love, unconditional love, by embracing the bigger picture, by including yourself as a part of the whole, by recognizing that you are a miniature whole of the greater whole, right? And all of the different elements of your life are sort of adding up to tell the story of what that whole is. And this is part of what Mercury coming direct is trying to implement as well. And with Mars at the same time as Mercury comes direct, Mars moves into Virgo, and Virgo rules Mercury. So Mercury is sort of driving Mars forward, right? By giving instructions to Mars by delivering the message of what our heart wants, now Mars is sent out into the front lines to attain it, right? To make it happen. And Mars being in Virgo is a very diligent, very hardworking, very busybody type of energy. It gets the task done. Even though Mars isn't necessarily very comfortable in Virgo per se. It's kind of a weird sign to be in for Mars, but there's a certain level of preciseness that Mars by itself or in any other sign doesn't necessarily have. So what we are able to cultivate now is like chiseling our future out, right? Chiseling what has been a big picture into the finer, somewhat fragmented elements of what needs to come together in order for this big future we see to manifest, right? So we manifest through Mars and Virgo, and Mars and Virgo is set out from Mercury and Leo. So until around October 23rd, we'll be keeping ourselves busy and getting straight to the task, right? And this is a very much needed energy, as we've been having a lot of fire lately. And all of the impulses we've been receiving are going to find their outlet through the creating and building process that this Virgo season is culminating. And on the next day, on the 6th, Wednesday, Jupiter comes out of shadow. So again, we're completing cycles from February, because in February, particularly I believe February 5th is when Jupiter in Libra went retrograde at this exact degree, 23 degrees of Libra. And as Jupiter went back in Libra, we were sort of replaying out certain relationship patterns that needed to be integrated, right? And anything that was somewhat confusing, right, or where we've been oscillating or been on the fence with the Libra archetype, right, we're able to see our lives and our relationships in particular, with it being in Libra, in a completely new perspective. And Jupiter coming out of shadow is finally being free of what that energy was from February 5th of 2017. And on the 8th, by Friday, we're going to be having the moon in Aries opposing this position. So there will be a bit of a lull between the 5th after the full moon and the 8th, because this week is all about getting us prepared to work, right? Getting us prepared and rested up in order to move forward, right? Because this energy has been somewhat of a nonstop play of constant power aspect after power aspect, right? We've been sort of in a show, and we've needed to constantly be playing our role, right? With all of this Leo energy, there's been somewhat of this dramatic, big showdown type of energy playing out in our lives, right? And we can feel somewhat fried. We can feel somewhat burnt out. We can feel very tired, and it's somewhat like being in a dream, right? Being in a state of, you can see it as being in a state of crystallization, or like a chrysalis stage, preparing for coming out of our cocoon. But before that happens, we're needing to crystallize the new form we will be taking inside of the chrysalis. So I'm seeing this as more of an introspective full moon than an obvious one, right? And it's almost like we're getting a break, but not, because we're constantly growing through the process, but it is not in a way that is necessarily action oriented. So by Friday, on the 8th of September, we have the moon in Aries opposing Jupiter, just coming out of shadow, and we have Mercury, which finally begins to move. So it moves to the 29th degree of Leo, very intense degrees. It is the Regulus degree, and as well as any last degree of a sign is it's the anaretic. So it is like the pressure to get to the next sign, right? So it's a very impulsive degree. And as this happens, the sun will be in trine. Sun in Virgo will be in trine to Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, and Venus will be in exact quincunx to Pluto retrograde. So 2 aspects made to Pluto. So the energy is revving up again, especially with the moon coming into Aries on the same day, or being in Aries on the same day, conjuncting Uranus. This is us ready to go, right? This is us ready to move, ready to step into our power, ready to start living out our ambitions, right? And with that, we finally come to the realization of what our ambitions are, as we have revealed the layers of our heart, right? As we have revealed sort of what this solar eclipse has brought to our awareness, as we understand it logically, as we understand it with our minds, right? We're ready to step into it, right? Where we're ready to live into it. And with this energy, we can choose how we will play. We can choose how we will fix the mess in front of us. And we're putting the pieces together, right? Where the pieces have been somewhat disheveled, or we gather one element of the story and another, and we kind of put it together in our own way. Now that the puzzle has been completed, right, we can choose where we want to put our next pieces, if that makes sense, right? So as you look at the state of affairs that your life is right now, right, as you look at what's in front of you, you see all of the different elements and how they add up to create this story that's been playing out, right? So now you ask yourself what type of story you want to play, and you ask yourself, what's the next move I'm going to make? What piece am I going to put in front of me now? What piece am I going to add to this story? Right? How am I going to put the pieces together in the way of my choosing? How am I going to build my life from this point, right? And Venus in quincunx to Pluto retrograde is sort of asking how we can adjust ourselves, right? As we are creating ourselves, as we are creating how we express our hearts, right? As we are looking at what we desire, as we are figuring out what sparks our inner flame, right? There is the question of how we sustain the fire. How do we cultivate it for the long term? As Pluto retrograde in Capricorn is asking us to be diligent in regards to utilizing our power in a way that speaks to the long term, right? Speaks to long-term security as well as long-term potential, right? What keeps it grounded? What keeps it something useful, right? Something that crystallizes the power in a way that furthers your evolution, right? And we choose what our ambitions will be. This plays out over the weekend too, as we have the moon in Taurus, moving into Taurus, right? We have Mercury moving into Virgo on the 9th, and we have a grand trine fire kite that a grand earth trine kite. Oh no, not even a kite. We're having a grand, I'm sorry guys, the Sun Neptune opposition is kind of messing with me right now, but we're having a grand Earth trine in the sky, right? As the moon in Taurus is speaking to the sun in Virgo, and as well as Pluto in Capricorn. So that's a grand Earth trine. And after all the fire on Friday, as we kind of get the last few messages from the leftover type of solar eclipse energy we're still in, now we move into the earth realm, right? Now we move into the practical aspects of whatever this vision has been, whatever new potential we've sort of seeded, right? Now it comes down to building it. Now it comes down to making it tangible, making it concrete, and following through on the practical steps of whatever plans are needed to make this dream a reality, right? So there's a lot of stability, and there's a sort of goal-setting energy that we're moving into, and we're getting a direction ultimately. And this direction is all about building the new life, right? Through steady progress, hard work, and perseverance. And we sort of receive the energy to be able to clean up the mess that's in front of us, right? As these past few weeks has been about, looking at the mess, looking at what's in front of us, right? Sort of sorting through it, and seeing everything that needs to be cleaned. As the sun has been in Virgo for some time now, for about a week now, right? A little more than a week. We've kind of seen everything that needs to be fixed. And with that, we've sort of been overwhelmed, right? Been overwhelmed and tired and burnt out, because it's like we haven't gotten a break, right? Until this week, with the full moon in Pisces, which is kind of washing us off, right? Which is kind of purifying us through forgiveness and compassion, and some water to throw over the fire that we've been in with the heavy Leo archetype we've been playing out. Now we're coming out of a state of being burnt out, and kind of receiving the energy to be able to move forward and to solve the riddle step by step, right? To just clean up the mess step by step. Eventually the room will be cleaned, the life will be cleaned, everything will be fixed eventually, but there's, a period of space and time that this happens, and this space and time is happening now. But we've received the vision, right? We've received the vision, the potential, and come this weekend, we will receive the plans, the blueprints to be able to work off of, to be able to build off of, right? Because we are somewhat of the architects of this new future that the solar eclipse kind of brought us all into, right? As we basically shifted dimensions. You probably felt it with your extra senses, but now how do we bridge that gap, right? How do we bridge the gap from being able to perceive something, with our inner eye, but we want to see it with our physical eyes as well. And so now we have to somewhat stitch dimensions together, stitch our physical reality and our spiritual reality together in a way where they meet in harmony and are able to kind of coexist with each other. So how do we make our dreams come true? Of course, by working hard to make them come true, right? So this week, especially this weekend, is starting that off. As we build from the plan, we are chiseling our new self, right? We are chiseling our future. We are chiseling it in stone. And with Jupiter coming out of shadow too, this is relationship breakthroughs as well. not just romantic, but with everyone, right? With your community, with the people you're surrounded by, right? You're able to see them from a higher perspective. You're able to see the dynamics, the relationship dynamics in a new way. You're able to see how they can actually further your growth, because now you're no longer tied into the past that has been since February, as we're starting a new cycle. And September is actually the last month that Jupiter will be in Libra. So this is an extra focus on the relationships in your life and the potential that they contain, right, to further your growth, and how we can cultivate new relationships in ways that we've never seen before, in ways that actually mirror our potential back to us. This is the ultimate question we are all being asked right now. We're going to need these new relationships, the new potential they contain, to walk through the fire with us as we're preparing for Jupiter to come into Scorpio and Saturn to come into Capricorn. So before that happens, we have to get very diligent and precise on what we want to take with us, right? On who is along for the journey, right? Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I know this was a very short horoscope, but I'm seeing this full moon as something that's very positive and needed for all of us, as we've sort of been burning at the stake for however many weeks that we've been in the Leo season, and this water and earth is needed to sort of calm the energies down and allow us to rest in a way that we haven't done in a long time. It's almost like a detox, right? It's almost like a fasting process that we're going through. And at the end of the day, we're all going to come out of this much cleaner, much healthier, and much more awake and aware than we've been in a long time. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. I will see you all next time. And if you'd like a personal reading with me, I have links in the description below for you to be able to do so. So thank you again, everyone, for watching. I see you next time.